For centuries, mystics, sages, and seekers have whispered of it. The third eye, the inner eye, the watcher behind your thoughts. They weren't being poetic. They were describing a technology, one not made of metal or wires, but of awareness. Your third eye is not just a metaphor. It is a biological access point, a portal between what is and what could be, a bridge between your programmed perception and your true sight. But here's what they don't tell you. It's not enough to open the third eye, because many have glimpsed the truth, but very few have learned how to hold it. This isn't about meditation poses, it's about pattern disruption, a 7-day reprogramming of how you perceive reality itself. And when you do this work with full presence, the shift doesn't come from outside, it erupts from within. You'll begin to notice things bending around you, not because reality changed, but because you did. The veil doesn't lift in one dramatic moment. It thins slowly, one layer at a time, each one peeling back as your perception sharpens. And if you're ready, if you're truly willing to see beyond the simulation, then the next 7 days could rewire everything. But be warned, once you begin, you don't return the same. Why 7 days? Because awakening isn't an instant flash. It's a circuit, and circuits activate through rhythm. 7 days is more than a time frame. It's a geometric cycle of human energy. 7 chakras, 7 layers of aura, 7 ancient planets that shaped early cosmology, 7 days of creation, 7 seals, 7 tones of vibration. In short, 7 is a key, and when applied with focus, it doesn't just open your third eye, it syncs it with your reality field. But it's not about doing something complicated. It's about deliberate repetition, tuning your perception like a frequency until your third eye stops being dormant and becomes your primary filter. The reason most people fail? They try once. They expect fireworks. They quit when the world doesn't immediately fold. But this is not a trick. It's a tuning. And here's how it works. For 7 days, you bring your awareness back to the same point, right between your eyebrows, slightly inward, behind your forehead. You don't force it. You return to it, again and again and again, in silence, in conversation, in motion, in stillness. That gentle awareness creates a pulse, and pulse creates coherence. By day 3, the chatter in your mind starts to break. By day 5, the field around you starts to bend. By day 7, you're no longer watching life from behind your thoughts. You're inside the current itself. But this practice is not just internal, because as the third eye activates, reality becomes responsive. You begin to see layers of intention behind people's words. You notice timing distort, delays that serve you, acceleration where it's needed. You think of someone, and they appear. Not magic, just resonance, recalibrated. The simulation does not resist awareness. It shapes itself around it. But only if you hold the frequency long enough for it to submit to your signal. Most people blink. You won't. You'll see this through. And when you do, the world won't know what changed. But you will. You don't need hours. You don't need mantras, crystals, or ancient scripts. You need 3 minutes, done with absolute presence. Here's what you do. Sit, back straight, eyes closed, breath steady, not deep, not shallow, just aware. Bring your attention to the space between your eyebrows, not a spot on your skin, the space behind it. Imagine it glowing, not like a light bulb, like a silent pulse, a presence. Now, don't try to visualize anything. Just listen. To what? To the nothing. To the flicker of awareness trying to make contact. To the part of you that watches all thoughts without becoming any of them. At first, it will feel like nothing's happening. Your mind will protest. You'll get restless. That's the loop resisting its collapse, because this moment, these 3 minutes, are the crack in the code. Each time you hold your attention there, you weaken the hold of distraction. You slow time. You split your awareness from the script you've been running. By day 2, the silence will feel heavier. By day 4, the energy in your head will shift. By day 6, thoughts will seem quieter because you're not identifying with them anymore. And by day 7, you'll feel it. The sense of watching your life from outside the usual frame. You'll walk into the same rooms, but they won't feel the same. You'll have the same conversations, but your perception will pick up layers you used to miss. Reality won't change, but your relationship to it will. And that's how everything begins to rewire, not because the world improved, but because your sight activated. If this already feels like something inside you is waking up, subscribe and hit the bell. The next 5 parts go deeper, and trust me, you're going to need them. Most people never make it past day 3, not because it's hard, but because the illusion gets loud. The closer you get to clarity, the more the simulation scrambles to keep your attention. Suddenly, you'll feel tired, distracted, triggered by things that normally wouldn't touch you. You'll question the practice. You'll wonder if it's working. You'll feel the pull to stop. This is not failure. This is proof. You're getting close, because your third eye doesn't just open the moment you focus. It opens when you refuse to abandon focus, even when it's uncomfortable. The field around you is built on feedback loops, and when you stop feeding the old loop with your energy, it destabilizes. That destabilization is what you're feeling. It's not your mind falling apart, it's the mask. And when the mask slips, so does the story. You start to see how much of your life was built to keep you looking outward. How the systems you trusted were never designed for clarity, only compliance. You begin to feel how stillness is not empty. It's electric. The inner body starts to buzz. Pressure builds behind the eyes, in the crown, along the spine. This is your nervous system updating, your perception trying to realign with the frequency you've always had access to, but were too distracted to hear. Now you're listening, and as you hold this frequency longer, reality begins to submit to it. You notice time flex, conversations shift, what felt immovable starts to bend. You're no longer reacting, you're observing from a higher register, not disassociated, aware. Because the third eye doesn't disconnect you from the world, it reconnects you to it, but from above the field, not lost within it. And from that vantage point, you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, why did I allow myself to believe this was all there was? The loop can't hold shape when you stop consenting to its version of sight. You're not just seeing clearly now, you're becoming the clarity. The moment you stop chasing change from the outside and start anchoring coherence from within, something irreversible happens. Reality begins to listen. It doesn't obey your words. It doesn't care about how badly you want something. It responds to one thing only, your frequency. And your frequency isn't emotion. It's not mood. It's the energetic signature you emit when your thoughts, actions, and awareness are fully aligned. When the third eye stabilizes, you stop reacting from old loops and start choosing from presence. That one shift flips everything. You walk into a room and sense who's resonating and who's leaking energy. You speak from stillness, and people stop to feel, not just hear. You become magnetized, not because of what you do, but because of what you're broadcasting. And the field listens. People show up out of nowhere with the exact message you needed. Opportunities appear, not just as rewards, but as mirrors of your new frequency. Delays fall away. You speak a thought, and life finishes the sentence. But here's what no one tells you. When reality starts responding to your signal, you don't feel powerful. You feel clear, clean, unburdened. Because your signal isn't full of striving or proving anymore. It's stable, coherent, recognizable to the quantum field. This is where manifestation becomes obsolete. You're not trying to bring things into being. You're realizing that your perception selects timelines. And with the third eye online, you begin to feel when a choice is frictionless. You know when something is not aligned, even if it looks good. You feel the yes without needing a reason. You walk away from the almost without guilt. This is not intuition. This is soul technology reactivated. And from this point forward, you're not asking the world to shift anymore. You're becoming the shift, and the world adjusts itself accordingly. Because when the inner lens stabilizes, the outer world has no choice but to match. That's not belief, that's law. The irony of awakening is this. The moment right before the breakthrough feels like collapse. It's the day you question everything. The silence feels too loud. The world feels disconnected. Old identities don't fit, but new ones haven't fully formed. This is where most people stop, not because they're lazy, because they mistake breakdown for failure, when it's actually the body letting go of the old code. See, when your third eye stabilizes, you're not just seeing differently, you're being rewired. The nervous system has to recalibrate. Your emotional baseline reorders. The stories you used to lean on for identity, they start falling apart. And the system you once called you starts glitching. You'll feel it as emotional waves that make no logical sense. Tiredness even after rest. Heightened sensitivity to light, sound, people, noise. A strange detachment from goals that once mattered. But this isn't regression. It's the old architecture dissolving. And the only way through is to not turn back. This is the edge of the old timeline. The line between who you were trained to be and who you actually are. And at that edge, the pattern will offer you deals. It will say, just shrink a little. Just stay quiet. Just go back to what's predictable. You were doing fine. But that version of fine came with a cost. You had to betray your deeper knowing just to keep the peace. Now, the price for staying asleep is too high. So what do? You hold. You breathe into the unknown. You let the noise rise. And you don't flinch. You allow the old loops to scream. And you don't pick them up again. Because this is the final filter. The simulation's last hope is that discomfort will override clarity. That you'll doubt what you know in favor of what's familiar. But you've come too far. And once you realize that discomfort isn't the problem, it's the evidence that something deeper is being initiated, you stop fearing it. You welcome it. You sit in it until it passes. And when it does, you're not the same. You've crossed the line, not with drama, with decision. And now the old field can no longer pull you back. Once you've crossed the line, the threshold where resistance gives way to remembrance, you don't just live in the same world with new eyes. You begin to notice you're not in the same world at all. What used to feel solid now feels selective. Time no longer drips in a straight line. Reality becomes fluid, responsive, pliable, alive. Not because the universe changed, but because your lens did. This is the true power of the third eye. Not visions, not special effects, not escape, selection. You're now selecting from infinite probabilities, not based on desire, but based on resonance. You walk into spaces, and you don't wonder what's happening. You know. You pick up on energy patterns before words are spoken. You feel when a timeline opens, and when one collapses. You begin to move through the world like someone who has already returned from the future, because in a way, you have. Your perception has extended beyond linear time. And in this state, strange things start happening. You stop arguing with life. You stop begging for signs. You stop chasing outcomes, not because you've given up, but because you've shifted into alignment-first navigation. You begin to trust what doesn't make sense, but feels perfect. You say no without justifying. You say yes without proof. You know what's yours, and what never was. And when people ask what changed, you can't explain it in words, because it didn't happen in words. It happened in sight. You're no longer mapping reality from the outside in. You're bending it from the inside out. And this shift, it's not temporary. It doesn't fade when you stop meditating. It doesn't vanish in crowds or chaos. Because now the field you walk in is shaped by the frequency you've chosen to hold. You are the stabilizer. The eye doesn't close again because you've remembered what it's for. You are no longer looking for truth. You're living as it. Everyone talks about opening the third eye, as if it's a door, as if it's separate, as if it's not you. But here's the truth that never gets said. You don't open the eye, you become it. The eye isn't a gateway, it's an identity. It's the version of you that doesn't blink when the illusion shakes. The you that doesn't look for signs, because you are the signal. The you that doesn't just see truth, but moves as truth, speaks as truth, chooses from truth. When the third eye is fully active, you're not floating above life. You're inside it, but untouched by its noise. Your awareness stretches across timelines. You feel the future tugging at your spine. You sense the past unraveling from your breath. You realize you were never waiting for an awakening. You were only waiting for permission to trust what was always whispering underneath the noise. You already know. Now you're not learning, you're remembering. You're not awakening, you're realigning. The dream doesn't end, you just start dreaming with your eyes open. And from that state, everything changes, because you're no longer responding to the world the way they programmed you to. You're creating from vision, not from fear, not from history, not from desire, but from clarity so clean, the simulation bends to meet it. And now that you've remembered who you are, what are you finally ready to see, that you've spent your whole life avoiding? Drop it in the comments. Someone's about to wake up, and your words might be the flicker that opens their eye.